All right, your fantasy baseball drafts are just around the corner, so this is the man who is going to give you the best information as you prepare for your draft strategy. Joe Pisapia, the author of the new Fantasy Baseball Black Book. I think one of the things that I really wanted to get into here is the value of categories that we saw a spike in this past year. Home runs. Everybody was hitting a home run. Do you see that as a target, or is that something that you can wait on because more guys are likely going to be hitting taters?
I think it's dangerous to wait on it, and I know that seems to be the common take on it, but I think that's a very dangerous road to go because there's going to be so many elite home run players early on. If you are somehow trying to make up that ground later on, you're putting a lot of risk potential to be grossly behind the front runners in that position. And I'll tell you what, if you're looking at some of these rotations, it's like San Diego, like Miami, maybe Kansas City, even the back ends of good rotations, they're not pretty, which means 2018 is going to be another big offensive season.
That's the thing. In fantasy baseball, we really have to play what the league is doing.
Right.
You have to play what changes are happening to the league. You saw a lot of home runs, but as a counter to that this year, we're seeing that the umpires are calling a tighter strike zone. They're making the pitch, or actually, I take that back. They're going the opposite direction. They're calling a wider strike zone, and it's forcing the hitters to swing at pitches that they don't want to swing at as much.
It is. And the other thing they're doing, too, is you also talk about evolution of baseball and how we need to react in fantasy. How about the middle-tier relievers? How about those seventh, eighth inning guys?
Right.
Those high-leverage guys, the Betanceses, the Andrew Millers, the Dave Robertsons, all those guys, even Davinsky in Houston. These are all guys that can be had for almost nothing, right? But you know what? In Roto 5x5 categories, these guys will give you potential slop wins. They'll give you potential saves if someone gets hurt ahead of them.
ERA and whip.
ERA, whip, and strikeouts.
Yeah.
And those are the things. These guys are going to cost you nothing. And especially early on in April and May, these are guys that cost you nothing. You could draft them. And guess what? They're going to help you in April, May because they're going to get a lot of exposure because pitchers aren't ready to go 7, 8 innings at all, if ever. And later on, you can play that waiver wire by the time you get into the season and make up starting pitching.
Just like a real manager, you got to learn how to manage the bullpen.
You do.
You got to know how to manage the bullpen. Okay, real quick, I want to ask you about some of those guys that are still unsigned. How do you value these free agents like Jake Arrieta and Lance Lynn?
It's tough because right now they're really dropping significantly. I think Arrieta is still a guy that I would take a gamble on. Lance Lynn's a nice pitcher. I'll tell you what, both of those guys I would take a chance on because the values hit rock bottom because people just don't know where they're going to be, but they're going to be somewhere.
They are going to be somewhere, but you just wonder every week that they're lost. Now, all of a sudden, instead of 180 strikeouts this year, Arrieta might only have 150. Now that puts him down the rankings list a little bit more. Or the flip side of that is you're getting Jake Arrieta for the second half of the season.
You know what? I don't think it's going to be quite that bad. I think they will get signed, and most of these guys are on throwing programs already. So I think the worst-case scenario, maybe they miss a week or two of a season if it drags on another week. But a guy like Arrieta, the upside of him, I know some of these even last year, the first half wasn't great. Second half was much better. He can really help a team, and if he ends up on a one-year show-me deal, I like him even more.
Well, I've got your book. I'd love to say that I was the only one in my league that has your book, but everybody in our league has your book now.
I'm actually happy everyone does. That's good for sales. I like that.
Good. The Fantasy Baseball Black Book is out. Joe Pisapia, the author. Thank you, man. I really appreciate your insights.
Always a pleasure to be here, Steve.